We now return to Insight 2016, presented by Digital Office Solutions, Annex Wealth Management, Reinhardt, Berner, Van Duren Attorneys at Law, and Wisconsin Manufacturers and Commerce. Once again, your host, Charlie Sykes.
Welcome back to Insight 2016, joined by presidential candidate Ted Cruz. Let's follow up on what we were just talking about. It's particularly in Wisconsin.
Right.
You know, we are a very manufacturing-heavy state.
Sure.
We've experienced significant losses. Very specifically, if we're talking to a 45-year-old blue-collar factory worker from Oshkosh who just lost their job because their job moved to Singapore,
Yes.
what does President Ted Cruz have to say to that person?
Right.
What would your policies do for that worker?
Well, my number one priority, both in the Senate and as president, is bringing back jobs and economic growth, raising wages for all Americans. We have right now the lowest percentage of Americans working of any year since 1977, and wages have stagnated for 20 years. Now, what is the key to economic growth? In our economy, small business is the heart of the economy. 2/3 of all new jobs come from small businesses. If you want to kill the economy, do what we've done the last 7 years. Hammer the living daylights out of small businesses. On the flip side, if you want to see the economy take off, then you take the boot of the federal government off the back of the necks of small businesses. And the two key levers that are most effective are tax reform and regulatory reform. If you look in history, every time the federal government has lifted the tax burden, lifted the regulatory burden on small businesses, whether in the 1920s under Calvin Coolidge, the 1960s under JFK, or the 1980s under Ronald Reagan, every time we've seen incredible economic growth, we've seen wages going up, we've seen incredible prosperity. It's why the two big legislative initiatives that I'm campaigning on the regulatory side, are repealing every single word of Obamacare. Obamacare is the single biggest job killer in this country. And we need to instead pass common sense health care reform that makes health insurance personal and portable and affordable and keeps government from getting in between us and our doctors.
Would it address pre-existing conditions?
Well, it would, and the way to do that, the reforms we should look at are really threefold. Number one, we should allow people to purchase health insurance across state lines. Mm-hmm. That would drive down cost. It would create a 50-state national marketplace, which would make low-cost catastrophic insurance far more widely available. Number two, we should expand health savings accounts so people can save in a tax-advantaged way for more routine health care needs. But number three, and this goes right to your question, Charlie, we need to work to de-link health insurance from employment so that if you lose your job, right now you don't lose your car insurance or your house insurance or your life insurance. There's no reason on earth you should lose your health insurance, and that is one of the biggest causes of the problem of pre-existing conditions, where people lose their job, they lose their insurance, and they can't get a new policy because they've gotten sick or they've gotten injured. And so instead, we need to empower patients and consumers and get government out of the way.
Now, I don't want to get too deep into the tax wonky weeds here, but your plan, basically, your tax plan would eliminate almost all of the business corporate taxes and replace it with a flat 16% tax on imports that you describe as border adjustable.
Yes.
How would that actually work? How does border adjustable work?
So the simple flat tax, and you can read all of the details. We have a very, very detailed white paper on our website, tedcruz.org. For a typical family of four, first $36,000 you earn, you pay nothing in taxes. Zero income tax, zero payroll tax, nothing. Above $36,000, each additional dollar, everyone pays the same simple flat 10%. No longer are hedge fund billionaires paying a lower effective tax rate than their secretaries. It's flat and fair for everybody. On the business side, we eliminate the corporate income tax. We eliminate the Obamacare taxes. We eliminate the payroll tax. And we eliminate the death tax, which is one of the cruelest and most unfair taxes. And as you noted, Charlie, we replace all of those with a simple 16% business flat tax that applies to everyone. No longer are giant corporations that have armies of accountants paying little to no taxes while small businesses get hammered with a punitive 35% corporate income tax. Everyone pays the business flat tax. And the critical point for manufacturing is that, as you noted, it's border adjustable, which means any export, if you're producing goods for export, those goods are 100% tax-free. And all imports that are coming into America pay the 16% business flat tax, and the effect of that will bring millions of high-paying jobs back to America, back from China, back from Mexico. It'll bring manufacturing jobs back.
Isn't that like
and
a
it
tariff,
does
though? Isn't that like a tariff a little bit, though? A little bit protectionist?
It is not, because it is uniform and fair, and everyone selling in the American marketplace is paying the same 16% tax. Right now, do you know when we export to Europe or Asia, our exports pay their taxes? Most of the other countries on earth do this to us. We don't charge taxes when they send their goods to America. That doesn't make any sense. If we're on a level playing field, if we're engaged in fair trade where we're able to compete evenly and fairly, then American ingenuity and productivity can compete with anybody, and my object is to bring millions of jobs back to America and to see wages rising again, which they haven't done in a long, long time.
On the issue of fair trade, you have changed your position a little bit on that. You were in favor initially of the fast track, and then you moved into opposition when the Pacific deal was cut. So where exactly are you right now in terms of, do you consider yourself a free trade advocate?
Absolutely. I agree with Ronald Reagan that free trade benefits America, that when we can export our goods, that American businesses, American farmers and ranchers prosper. But right now, we have an administration that is cutting lousy trade deals, where the imports are coming into this country, but the other countries are putting barriers to trade in place, putting regulatory barriers. You know, I met with the senior leadership of John Deere. They were talking about how incredibly difficult it is to sell a tractor in China. That theoretically, you can send tractors to China, but what happens is they adjust the regulations so that the only tractors that meet the regulations are the Chinese ones. And they play games that keep our goods out, and unfortunately, we have a president who consistently refuses to fight for American workers. We need a president who every day stands up and fights for the hardworking taxpayers, for the working men and women of this country. And as president, I will negotiate trade deals that open up foreign markets, make sure our goods get in, but ensure that the rules are fair and it's a level playing field, so we're bringing jobs back to America and we're competing and seeing wages go up.
Okay, let's take one more break. When we come back, I want to talk about Ted Cruz. Ted Cruz, the senator, Ted Cruz, the president. You're listening to News Radio 620 WTMJ. I'm Charlie Sykes, Inside 2016.